Yesterday, Sayadaw explained on Kochite Papake Dhame Salayanti Kantanti Vedasantiti Kusala. It means that by loosening the disgusting, detestable, inferior states, so that they will become weakened and weakened. So these detestable states, which have been firm throughout one life, should be loosened. So it is called the Danga Pahana, overcoming momentarily. In order to overcome momentarily these inferior, detestable states, one needs to be mindful at the moment of arising. So one should be mindful of whatever is arising in oneself. One should note with aim and effort so that there will be sustained mindfulness. When there is sustained mindfulness on the object, then the mind will fall calm and collected on the object, and the noting mind and the object will become face to face, direct with the object. So when that happens, one is overcoming Priyuttana Kilesa, obsessive form of Kilesa, that can arise by lack of mindfulness. So in this way, these obsessive form of defilement are removed. So it includes sila, morality. So with morality, one does not need to refrain from especially that when one makes a vow so as to refrain from it, there will be volition. So by practicing Satipatthana meditation, one is said to be overcoming misconduct by body, speech and mind. The misconduct, bodily, verbal and mental misconduct that are disgusting and detestable are refrained by practicing Satipatthana meditation. So when the person is mindful on the presently arising object, there will be the Danga Pahana, there will be overcoming of the Priyuttana Kilesa, overcoming of obsessive form of Kilesa defilement momentarily. And as the yogi, as the person practices again and again, then his or her practice gains momentum. So when the practice gains momentum, his or her sila, his or her sati, mindfulness and samadhi, concentration, will also gain momentum. So when the person's sati and samadhi gains momentum, there will be vikambana pahana, overcoming by distancing the defilement. Even though at times one may miss to note the object, the defilement, gross form of defilement, cannot arise connecting with the object that she missed to note as a result of gaining momentum in the practice. So because of the momentum in the practice, even though she missed to note the object, the defilements are staying distant. The gross form of defilement has no chance to arise because of the momentum in the practice. So it is called vikambana pahana, overcoming by distancing the kilesa. Even on the object that she missed to note, these gross form of defilement cannot take place due to momentum in the practice. So that's why it is called Salayanti Kampanti, which means loosening the unwholesome state, so that these states will become weaker and weaker. So this is how the defilement could be overcome by distancing, by practicing Satipatthana meditation. So one has to practice Vipassana meditation from the very basic, and one should go stage by stage so that one will be preventing, curing these defilements by gaining Vipassana jnana stage by stage. So by gaining Vipassana jnana, by gaining knowledge stage by stage, the views, the wrong views that has been strongly rooted in oneself will become weaker and weaker. So practicing is a way of loosening these unwholesome states so that they will become weaker and weaker, so that it will be easy to remove. And when the person has attained Ariya Magga Jnana, when the person has attained path knowledge, then she can overcome, she can remove the kilesa defilement, she can uproot certain kilesa defilements by attaining Magga Jnana, path knowledge. So in this way, one should loosen the kilesa defilement that should be following throughout the samsara with the danga pahana, momentary overcoming, and also vikambana pahana, one should repeatedly make it loosen so that these defilements will become distant and weaker. And when the person has attained Magga Jnana, path knowledge, then the person is able to uproot the defilements that are relating to apaya, that are relating to lower existences. So by attaining Magga Jnana, by attaining path knowledge, the person can uproot and eradicate the kilesa defilements that can lead to apaya, that can lead to lower existences. And by attaining Phala Jnana, fruition knowledge, she can tranquil the defilements. So that's why it is said, Kochite Papake Jane Salayanti. Salayanti Kampanti Vedam Santiti Kusala. That means the wholesomeness can loosen and uproot and eradicate the unwholesome states that are detestable and disgusting. So, to explain about the Danga Pahana, it means overcoming the defilement moment by moment, overcoming the defilement momentarily, abandoning the defilement momentarily is called the Danga Pahana. Vikambana Pahana means abandoning the kilesa defilement by distancing. So when the kilesa defilements are abandoned by distancing, then it is called Vikambana Pahana. Samujjeda means uprooting or eradicating. So Samujjeda Pahana means overcoming by abandoning or removing. There are two kinds of samujjeda, two kinds of removing or eradicating. So these two are removing, eradicating momentarily, and removing, eradicating permanently. So at the moment of Vipassana practice, one can eradicate, remove the kilesa defilement momentarily. And at the moment of Magga Jnana, at the moment by attaining this Magga Jnana, by attaining path knowledge, the person can eradicate, remove the defilement permanently at the point of no return. So, for example, by attaining Sotapaddi Magga Jnana, by attaining the first stage of path knowledge, one can overcome Sakkaya Ditthi and Silabbata Paramasa and Vicikicca. So by attaining the Sotapaddi Magga Jnana, one can overcome Ditthi, wrong view, and Vicikicca, skeptical doubt, permanently. So these two are overcome, removed, eradicated totally when the person has attained Sotapaddi Magga Jnana, the first stage of path knowledge. In other way, the word kusala is made up of three parts: ku, sa, and la. Ku means the disgusting, detestable, contemptible manner or situation. And sa means the things that dwell. So ku and sa made up of ku and sa make up kusa, which is the name of akusala, unwholesomeness. So these unwholesomeness, these defilements will dwell in the person as long as they are not uprooted, eradicated by attaining Ariya Magga Jnana, by attaining path knowledge. So long as the person has not removed, has not eradicated the kilesa defilement, whenever there is opportunity, whenever there are circumstances for them to arise, then these kilesa defilements will arise. So they are anusya kilesa, latent or dormant form of defilement. So these latent or dormant form of defilement are waiting for their chance to arise whenever there is opportunity, whenever there is circumstances. So long as they are not uprooted by Ariya Magga path knowledge. So in being, these kilesa defilements, these latent or dormant form of defilements are dwelling in the being. The being who had not attained Ariya Magga path knowledge, these latent or dormant form of defilements will be dwelling in the person. So these unwholesome states, these defilements are disgusting and detestable, because when the person is agitated by raga, lust, or when she is agitated by anger, hatred, aversion, or when the person is agitated by delusion, not knowing the truth, then there will be impurity, it will be dirty. So these unwholesome states are disgusting and dirty because they are mixed with disgusting lust. So in Pali it is called Ragati Asuchi Sampayogato. These unwholesomeness are disgusting because they are mixed with disgusting raga, disgusting lust. And by indulging in these defilements, the person will commit transgression. The person will be committing misconduct by body, speech and mind, making the person inferior. So that's why these unwholesomeness are the cause for the person to end up in suffering. So these unwholesomeness are the cause of suffering. So that's why there are two factors making these unwholesomeness disgusting and detestable. These two factors are because they are mixed up with disgusting lust, they are detestable and disgusting. And the second factor is because these unwholesomeness are the cause of suffering, that's why they are disgusting and detestable. So the latent or dormant form of defilement that are dwelling in the person, so long as he has not eradicated them by attaining Magga Jnana, past knowledge, these latent and dormant defilements, they are unseen, they are not prominent in the form of body or speech, but these latent defilements are disgusting and detestable because these latent dormant defilements can lead to suffering. So these latent or dormant defilements, even though they do not manifest in the body or speech, but they are waiting for the opportunity to arise whenever there is circumstances or opportunity. That's why these latent dormant defilements are also defilements. These latent or dormant form of defilements are compared to a person who is fast asleep. And when the person wakes up, the waking up of the person is compared to Priyuttana Kilesa, the obsessive form of defilement that manifests in the mind. And after the person wakes up, this person will get up, go here and there. So it is compared to Vidikama Kilesa, transgressive form of defilement. So these latent or dormant form of defilement are compared to a person who is fast asleep. And Priyuttana Kilesa, obsessive form of defilement, are compared to a person who has waken up. So this waking up of the person is compared to obsessive form of defilement that manifests in the mind. And the transgressive form of kilesa defilement, the defilements that manifest in the body and speech, is compared to the person who gets up and do this and that. So this example of a person who is fast asleep, who wakes up and who gets up to do things, are compared to 3 stages of defilement. So the defilement that is bound to arise when there are circumstances, so long as these have not been eradicated by Magga Jnana. In Pali it is called Uttajana. The kilesa defilements that are bound to arise whenever there is chance, whenever there is opportunity or circumstances. They are waiting or being ready to arise. So these latent and dormant forms of defilements will arise, are bound to arise whenever there is circumstances or opportunity. So it is just like someone who is fast asleep. If he or she is waken up by another person, or if she wakes up herself automatically, this is compared to the latent or dormant form of defilement. Whenever there is a chance for them to arise, these defilements will manifest in the mind and also come to transgression, just like when the person who is asleep waken up. So when one meets with desirable objects, then raga, lust, will arise. When one meets with undesirable objects, there can be anger, hatred, and aversion. And when there are things to take pride of, there will be mana, conceit. And also there can be other unwholesome states such as envy, jealousy, and there can also be delusion, so long as the unwholesomeness, so long as these defilements have not been eradicated by Magga Jnana, past knowledge. So long as the person has not eradicated these latent or dormant form of defilement, then these latent and dormant defilements will be dwelling in the person continuously, and they will arise whenever they have chance or opportunity to arise. And these defilements are asuci, they are dirty and impure, and the mind that is associating with raga, lust, and other defilements, the mind will be dirty and impure. So because the mind is mixed or associating with the dirty, impure defilements, the mind also becomes dirty and impure and disgusting. When the person indulges in defilements, lobha, dosa, moha, then there will be bad consequences. So that's why these defilements are the cause for bad consequences. So these kilesa defilements, even the latent and dormant defilements, should be removed and abandoned. So the unwholesomeness that dwells in the disgusting manner should be cut, should be eradicated, or should be gotten rid of. So kusala means wholesomeness that gets rid of the disgusting unwholesomeness. So kusala is the wholesomeness that gets rid of the disgusting unwholesomeness that dwell in the person in the disgusting manner. So Buddha taught that these raga, lust, are disgusting and impure. And also Buddha taught that if one indulges in these lusts and defilements, one will gain bad consequences. So, listening to the teaching of the Buddha, the person will come to see that these unwholesomeness and the defilements are disgusting and inferior. Because Buddha taught, one can get the knowledge that these unwholesomeness and defilements are things that are disgusting and inferior. So having this knowledge, one will know that these unwholesomeness and defilements are things that are disgusting, that are worthy of shame and fear. So having this moral shame and moral fear of these unwholesomeness and defilements, one will also have moral shame and moral fear to commit transgression and misconduct. So having this knowledge that these unwholesomeness and defilements are things that are worthy of shame and fear, then one will stay away, one will refrain from these misconduct and transgression. And one would also refrain so that one will not indulge in these defilements. So having this moral shame and moral fear, one will refrain from unwholesomeness, and these are the mental strength. These two mental strengths, moral shame and moral fear, are very essential in order to refrain from unwholesomeness. The more the person can refrain from unwholesomeness with moral shame and moral fear, the more his or her body speech will become pure and clean. So by observing sila, one can overcome gross form of defilement, and one will be able to refrain from misconduct by having moral shame and moral fear. So having moral shame and moral fear, she will refrain from misconduct so that his or her body's speech will become pure, clean, gentle, and lovable. So in order to prevent and remove the disgusting defilements such as raga, lust, Satipatthana meditation is the way to prevent and cure these disgusting unwholesomeness. So by practicing Satipatthana meditation, the mind will be free from these defilements, and thus the mind will be pure, clean, tame, gentle. So there will be happiness and joy when the mind is free from these defilements. When the person has totally eradicated the defilements, then the kind of happiness and joy one can gain will be great. So one needs to have Vipassana jnana, insight knowledge, and Magga jnana, path knowledge, in order to eradicate the defilement that can lead to apaya, lower existences. By eradicating the defilement relating to apaya, then the person will have right view, she will have firm faith and confidence on things that are worthy of faith and confidence. His or her body, speech will become blameless. And when the person has got to this stage by attaining this Magga Jnana, having strong faith and confidence, having firm confidence, then the person will know that this is the correct way of practice. So knowing the correct way of practice, having faith and confidence on this practice, by attaining Magga Jnana, path knowledge, she will never go after wrong path, and she will never follow or pursue wrong kind of practice. And by attaining the first path knowledge, the person still has raga, dosa, moha, lust, anger and delusion, but it is not to the stage of without any control. There will not be transgression into misconduct, but the raga, dosa, moha, lust, anger and delusion, that the person who has attained Magga Jnana will be refined. So the person who had attained this Magga Jnana, his or her defilement will be refined, and she will not have the kind of gross defilement that is relating to apaya that can lead to lower existences. So in this way, the person is totally free from being reborn into apaya, lower existences. Thus, she will have happiness and joy. So that's why it is said, by practicing Satipatthana meditation, the mind will become purified so that she will have happiness and joy. So the other day, Sayadaw explained that there are 7 kinds of mental strength or mental power. So these 7 are power or strength of faith and confidence, power or strength of courage, the strength or power of mindfulness, power of concentration, power of wisdom, knowledge, and also power of moral shame and the power of moral fear. If the person does not practice Satipatthana meditation, she will not have these 7 kinds of mental power at all. And at the beginning of the practice also, the person does not have these 7 kinds of mental power or mental strength. But when the person has attained the stage or the knowledge of insight into fast arising and passing away of the object, then these 7 kinds of mental strength or these 7 kinds of mental power has become strong, quite strong. So when the yogi gets to this stage of insight knowledge into fast arising and passing away of the object, these 7 kinds of mental power, mental strength become strong amazingly. And when the yogi gets this very special Dhamma taste in the practice, then the yogi comes to acceptance, confirmation, decision that this practice is really correct. In this way, yogi gains more courage to refrain from things that should be refrained, and more courage to refrain from things that should be refrained. When the yogi overcomes pain and ache, the yogi becomes even more courageous. And at this stage, the mindfulness, sati, becomes upatthita. His or her mindfulness becomes firmly established. And also, the mind will fall calm and collected on the object. The mind will be more concentrated and united, so the person will come to know even the smallest details. In practicing, the yogi will come to know the taste of the Dhamma. So when the yogi gets to the stage when experiencing this special Dhamma taste, then the yogi will feel moral shame and moral fear from missing or failing to note the object. Yogi will have moral shame and moral fear to be missing to note, to lose to note, and also she will have shame and fear that the kilesa defilement can come into the mind by lack of mindfulness. So when the yogi develops this moral shame and moral fear from failing or missing to note, then this yogi will be noting continuously, meticulously, very thoroughly. So when this happens, yogi will make a very fast progress when the yogi is able to note continuously, meticulously, and thoroughly. So, having this moral shame and moral fear, yogi will have shame and fear that the unwholesomeness, defilement will come into the mind by lack of mindfulness. So this moral shame and moral fear is called sukha dhamma, because this moral shame and moral fear can make the mind become purified. And it is just like the white color. Just as the white color can dispel or repel heat, in the same way, these mental strength of moral shame and moral fear can repel defilement. And this moral shame and moral fear is also called Lokapala, the protector of the world. Having these two strengths, moral shame and moral fear, she will be protecting so that his or her own world will not be ruined or destroyed. So having these strengths of moral shame and moral fear, one will control oneself so that his or her world will not be ruined, and also she is not disturbing others so that the surrounding world will also be in peace. So by practicing, one is said to be refraining from unwholesomeness, one is said to be developing wholesomeness. The more she can refrain from unwholesomeness, the more she can develop wholesomeness, then his or her training of sila, samadhi, panya, morality, concentration, and wisdom will develop stronger and stronger, and thus she will shine with good quality, good virtue. That's why this moral shame and moral fear can also be called Deva Dhamma, because these mental strengths make the person shine with virtue and quality. So these mental strengths, Hiri Ottappa, are called Sukha Dhamma because it can make the person purified. And also, these can be called lokapala because these mental strength can protect the world from being ruined. And these mental strength can make the person become a true human, to have a humane mind, and to become extraordinary person. So these two mental strengths, hearing and ottappa, will be developed amazingly, and also other kinds of mental strength will develop stronger and stronger at the stage of uddiyabaya jnana, insight into facts arising and passing away of the object. Before attaining this stage of uddiyabaya jnana, the person has this moral shame and moral fear out of prudence, but when the yogi has attained this uddiyabaya jnana, his or her mental strength will become strong amazingly. So that's why Buddha taught so as to refrain from these transgressions, the kind of transgressions that are very disgusting and inferior. So in order to arise spiritual urgency, in order to enable the person to struggle out of unwholesomeness that are very disgusting and inferior, so these definitions of kusala are explained by the commentator according to the teaching of the Buddha. So Jataji will continue to explain on this definition of kusala in another way tomorrow. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.